Hey, I got a great episode lined up for you. If you have never been here before, thank you for giving me a chance. My name is Celeste. I am a therapist from Boston. I am currently streaming in over 130 countries, and we have passed over 150,000 downloads. So thank you all so much for sharing my content. Thank you so much for listening to my content. There's over 750,000 podcasts. So the fact that you all choose to listen to me, I do not take that lightly. I come on, I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others. This episode is our monthly segment with Jermaine Morris, Getting Your Mind Right. He drops so many gems. If you enjoy his content, make sure you give him a follow. If you want to follow me on social media platforms, all you got to do is search Celeste the Therapist. And if you want to be a part of the show, you can catch us live Mondays and Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to be on the show, email me, admin, ADMIN, at celestetherapist.com. All right, let's get into this amazing episode.
And so there's a lot of stuff that you can either deal with it while it's manageable or when it's not. But in any event, you're going to be on the clock. You're going to have to do something with this. And there are some people who are trying to opt out of control, i.e. certain addictions, certain isolation, they're just like, someone keeps throwing the keys at them and they just drop the keys on the floor and walk away.
Yeah, and the reality is we can survive that way. We can keep going and just survive life. And surviving and living is two different things. So if it's huge. And I think if we really want to start living, we really have to start taking accountability.
365 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.
If you're hitting dead ends with therapists, like trying to find a therapist, that's not the only way that you can work on yourself, but I would definitely encourage you not to give up. NAMI, N-A-M-I, is a great resource for people that are looking for support. They have free sessions online, like group sessions online. And with everything being virtual, you can pretty much join any platform, which is amazing. Definitely, like if you're a big social media person, follow more therapists that are talking about different things or mental health advocates. There's something like powerful when you start to put yourself in an environment that promotes change that you're trying to create. That's going to be important. So before I get started too, I just wanted to also let you know, in January, I'll be restarting a cohort, Shifting the Way You Think. It's a 3-month membership. And this membership is for people looking for accountability, looking for ways to shift your thought process, solution-focused ways to deal with life stressors. Really good program. If you want to be on the wait list, all you got to do is go to shiftingthewayouthink.com to be a part of that. So, the moral of what I'm trying to say here is don't allow a dead end to stop you from getting what you need. Most of us are survivors. We survive really well. We keep doing what we need to do to survive. But when it comes to live, I feel like most of us kind of drop the ball. One of the things that Les Brown says, he's a very well-known coach or motivational speaker, but he says most of us are making out-of-court settlements with our life, right? And when you think about an out-of-court settlement, it's something that you decide to do because you don't think you're going to win the case in court. And so most of us with our life, because we don't feel like we're going to be anywhere further than where we are currently, we make a life settlement with ourselves, and we just create this mindset that we make excuses to be sick and tired and just stay sick and tired. So you don't have to continue to live your life like that, but you do have to work on your mindset. And what better person I have to help me really keep going around this mindset thing than my good friend Jermaine Morris. Hi, Jermaine. Can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Hi, I am Jermaine Morris. Professionally, I work as a certified DISC coach and consultant, and I also run a personal development coaching program, one for adults, and then the Ascension program is for youth, teaching them a lot of foundational principles, things that will apply if they go to college, if they start their own business, if they just exist in the workforce. That, as well as I've been in some form of broadcasting for almost 20 years. So I host A Cold Cup of Coffee, that show, and then co-host of the Say Something podcast.
Yes. He is a jack of all trades. Jermaine comes on monthly. He's been on a few episodes in the past. If you want to catch up on some of his old content on my podcast, you won't go wrong. So I want to start this podcast because, I think that a lot of times, I talked about us making out-of-court settlements, and part of us making out-of-life settlements with ourselves is because of the way society has said, who we are or where we should be, or, being in environments where we've only seen things happen a certain way. So I want to actually take a clip from Jermaine's segment on his podcast, and it's a minute clip, and I just want to share that, and then I want us to have a conversation about
that. We have a society that grooms you to either be an inmate or a marginally intelligent employee. That is the structure of the United States system in education. You are either groomed for one or the other, to be an inmate or to be a marginally intelligent employee. Every system that you start from the time you're 5 years old teaches you that when you hear a bell, that means you need to be here. When you need to sit here and be quiet, that you speak when you're spoken to, that you raise your hand and then you're addressed, that you do as you're told in a structured environment, that you can do what we tell you, when we tell you, for as long as we tell you. Either if you go into an average American job or you end up in the penitentiary system, it's the same routine. You hear the bell, you know to sit down. You hear this particular noise, you know where you're supposed to be at. You don't just talk out of turn. You do what we tell you to do, when we tell you to do it, or there'll be consequences.
So tell me a little bit about that clip, because you sounded very passionate about that statement around the way society has groomed us. I want to kind of go into that a little bit. Okay.
Well, I think that kind of just with that sentiment is from the time we get into the system, and when I mean the system, the educational system, when we become ingrained in where it's no longer you. At home, when the kids are born, nap time is when you decide, snack time is when you feel like it. Like it's real kind of free flow. Once they get into school starts to then train you. Because I think something we don't address, the public school system in general, since its inception, has been based around creating marginally intelligent employees. So it wasn't designed to create these advanced, free-thinking individuals. Those people went to boarding schools and to private schools. So the public school for the masses was, you're going to be a middle of the road, middle level competency. Can you read? Can you write? Can you not burn down my factory? Can you toe the line with simple comprehension? Like that's what we're training you for. If you want to get the elite stuff, you go away and you pay for it. So public school just basically just grooms you to fall in line with systems. Hear the bell, sit down. X amount of time, do this. Even though there's more than enough data that shows that human beings learn in a multitude of ways, whether it be just through reading, working with their hands, auditory, visual, group projects, whatever. We already know. Educators know. School districts know. Superintendents know. There's multiple ways to teach a child because they learn differently. But you're in a system that says, sit down, be quiet, open your book and read chapter 2. This is the way we do it. So this is the way you do it. Do it this way for this amount of time. You just structured environment. And that whole system is to get you ready for when you go out into the real world, that you have a job, that you show up at this time, and that you do this for as long as we tell you. And you take your break when we tell you for as long as we tell you. And for as much as we tell you. Like it's the same structure. So then when you're groomed to fall in line to a mid-level, marginally, competent profession, or they also hear about the preschool to prison pipeline. Like you've already been groomed. You're already inundated to the penal system. Mm-hmm. So if something happens to where maybe I'm not getting too deep. I don't think that it's crazy to believe that the lack of literacy of incarcerated individuals is so high. Like it's like 80% of people who are in prison can't read. And so if you don't fall, but even if you don't learn how to learn throughout school, you learn the system. So people who go through school and then something happens to them, they get involved in something, they get locked up. They may not know who the 9th president of the United States was, but they know what to do when they hear a bell. They know when they need to sit and be quiet. Because they've been trained since they were 5 years old till they were 18 to fall in line with the system. And so it's just training. Like I think we even changed I know you were joking, I just keep running up the mouth. We've even changed the definition of education. That education, Educar Regional at its root was to bring out. To educate somebody was to bring out the genius that they already had. We've even redefined education as to train, to put in. So to be educated now is to be trained, as opposed to being educated as to pull out. An educator's job is to pull it out of you. Now it's to put it in you. And so those types of systems really eliminate the free thinking, and they get people just trained. So that's where that came from.
So, given that this is the case, and most of us, have went to school in public systems, unless we're, from a different socioeconomic status,
yeah.
How does this affect one's ability to navigate life, you think? Because, everybody's not entering into the prison system, but we know most of our people are. But how does this affect us in our way of thinking and living, you think?
It's the training. So the idea of it once you start so young in those development, everybody will tell you the first 5 years are the most developmental years. Well, you start getting your kids ready for school at around 3.5, 4, because they got to make sure that they can be in school. So you start the training process at like 3.5, 4 in those developmental years. So you're trained to a certain way. So now when you get out into the world, you're boxed like a horse with the blinders. And we have come as a society where so many of us are trained that we look at the free thinkers like they're crazy. We look at the ones who do not see the box. Like think outside the box. The box does not exist to them. They just see a realm of possibility. We tell them they're not realistic and that they're immature. We tell them that they need to get with the program. You need to figure out how to get a job. Put this suit and tie on. We tell them that you need to get, you're the outsider. You need to get with the program and get in the system like us. That's why I always reference that Matrix movie so much. That first one had so many points in there. It was like, there are so many people who are so inundated in the system that they will fight you to stay plugged in. Like there's people who will tell you to stop dreaming, tell you not to be an entrepreneur, tell you not to be an artist, tell you not to do.
Even 5 years ago, when I was branching out, to create my own practice, people were like, "Oh, what are you doing that for? You get sick in vacation time." Even I was on that same bandwagon. Like, do I really want to do this? I get sick in vacation time. And I know even just trying to get a state job, I think there's this mindset around you get a state job, you get a pen, you work there for 15, 20 years. And you're probably miserable, but guess what? In 20 years, you'll get a watch, or you'll get money coming in every month. Do I want to waste time? Do I want to waste time? But this was my mentality, and now when I look back, I think about how much we have been conditioned to fall in line and not to be free thinkers and not to step outside the box. And so we do have these blinders on.
Yeah, we'll have people who will tell you, if you ask them about their job, I hate the job. They try to find a silver lining about it. Well, it helped pay for my kids, or the benefits were good for my kids, or something along that line. And they're miserable, hoping that after 65, they can get some freedom. So they can live that last decade and a half, 20 years if you're lucky. Now it's saying like, okay, well, I've got, you were living check to check while you were working. Your retirement is like 80% of that. So what's the So when somebody's saying, I want to get off the reservation and I want to start my own business, we try to tell them, we try to put our fears on them. When somebody doesn't conform or concede to our ideologies about something that we were grown up in, there's something wrong with them. If anytime somebody wants to just go out, I mean, I know now there's a bigger shift in mental health, but if you go back more than 10 years ago, if you were somebody who said you wanted to speak to a therapist,
you crazy, something
crazy, the first word that popped up, so you don't go, you ain't crazy, ain't nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, No, I realize there's some things that I need to talk to somebody, and you want to go, and they would roast people for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, anytime folks want to, so I mean, we get so conditioned and so trained to be of a particular mindset, of a particular way of doing things, that whenever you do something different, whenever you do something that's out off the system, then there's something wrong with you.
This is true. He says you get applauded for getting a job and criticism for starting a business, even when you post something about it. And, you know, where do you think that comes from with the lack of support from your peers when you are trying to branch out?
Well, because a lot of it comes from a scarcity mindset, and it comes from fear. So you're constantly looking for security. You're constantly looking for A, security, B, validation. So you're looking for something that you need a job that, you know, regardless of what happens, as long as you show up, you're making X amount of dollars a month. Mm-hmm. There's a certain degree of safety along with that. And then we look for validation. People pride themselves on how many years they've been at the job. Mm-hmm. People say, man, I've been on my job 22 years. Mm-hmm. And somebody else is like, that's.
But that becomes your identity. Somebody said they find it odd in America. We ask people, you know, what do you do for a living? And I think a lot of us have identified our, you know, we find our value in, you know, what we do. And so we do, you know, we hold our head high. We could be struggling inside, but we got this great job.
Yeah, because it's social currency. So before maybe within the same last decade, entrepreneurship wasn't a sexy thing. Now everybody says that they're an entrepreneur. Everybody says that they're doing it. But before, that was just code word for unemployed. Like if you just said you was an entrepreneur, that was just code for ain't got no job. So so being linked to what you did for a living is a certain degree of status. And even if the job isn't high in status, what you get from it. Mm-hmm. You know, oh, that job, he come with good benefits. You know, mm-hmm. That job has got a great retirement plan. They got stock options, like for dudes, you know, get you that. It's security. You'll be safe. You'll be all right. For women, marry you a man who works there because he can provide. He's got this and he's got that. So, you know, our value was linked to what our profession was.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, I know we were just talking about like the professional world and how like our mindset is a certain way with that. Now, when it comes to living and the way that we think about ourselves and being able to create change within ourselves, I feel like a lot of that negative mindset is due to, you know, could be our environment, our culture. I think that a lot of times, especially Black people, you know, society says we're not going to be nothing. We don't see ourselves in certain positions. Black boys see people with money that are rappers or sports players, right? Mm-hmm. They don't typically get to see people in other areas doing something different. So nothing wrong with wanting to be a rapper, but you find yourself only wanting to do basketball or rapping and not looking at something else because that's the way you feel like you're going to make it out. Yeah. How do you think we can start to work on thinking for ourselves and not allowing society, you know, we watched everything that's been unfolding, you know, all over. And we know racism has always been around, but, you know, we're watching it being highlighted and, you know, it can mess up your psyche and your mindset about your capabilities or what you're able to do when you have like a whole country, a whole president, like not sticking up for you and not telling you that, you know, things could look different. How do we move past that?
Well, I'm a firm believer in self-awareness. So, like I said, I think most people fall short of their dreams and goals due to an inability to properly self-assess. So, not knowing what our strengths are, not knowing what our potential blind spots are in our behavior. So, starting off with knowing who we are. You know, I think that we go to young people and they see Steph Curry, they see LeBron, they see a basketball. There's reports that say the reason why basketball is huge because it's for economic reasons. It's cheap. You just need a ball. You know, if lacrosse was cheaper, there'd be more of us playing lacrosse. If certain sports were cheaper, there'd be more of us doing it. Like we just do it because economic reasons and availability is one reason.
Because we can't get on a golf course.
What's that?
You can't get on a golf course like that.
And golf is very expensive when you start talking about the shoes and the clubs and where you can go and all that stuff. But if all sports cost the same to play, you see way more diversity in different sports. So a big part of that is resources and exposure. So what are we exposing kids to? Are we telling them, oh, well, he's tall for the 5th grade? Oh, so you must want to be a basketball player when you grow up.
Yeah.
Or you're big for your age. Oh, you must want to play football.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, oh man, you put puzzles together really well. You might want to be an architect or an engineer. You might want to go into biology or chemistry. You've always got a point. You can see different points of view. Maybe you want to be an attorney. Maybe you want to argue. Like we don't start throwing those things at them. We just low-hanging fruit is what they're offered at a young age. And then that's kind of like, well, just play basketball to get a scholarship to go to college and then do something else. So you start with them as they're 9 and you're grooming them all the way until they're 22 to use this medium to get them somewhere. So, okay, now they're 22 and they don't make the league. Then what?
Right.
Nothing was groomed for them to be an English professor. Nothing was groomed for them to be, a civil engineer. Nothing was groomed for them to be a therapist. Nothing. They were groomed to be a point guard. And if that doesn't translate to millions of dollars, so I think part of it is so that goes a little off your question, but I think a big part of it is starting with who the person is. Like I do these youth development classes, and part of it is when we do goal setting, one of the questions in setting their goals is which of your specific strengths are going to help you achieve your goal?
That's good.
So are you good with people? So you're going to use your connections and your ability to relate in those relationships. Are you just great analytically? So you're really going to get in the lab and you're going to dot all the I's, cross all the T's and figure it out. Are you just a straight executor? You just have will, you have drive, determination. Are you like a linchpin? You bring people together and like what of your specific strengths are going to help you achieve your goals? So figuring out who we are, self-awareness. And just because the person is 6'8" in the 10th grade doesn't mean he can't be a neurosurgeon.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't mean that, okay, you're just a tall doctor.
And part of that goes into us. I think like when the teachers will say probably, oh, you could be a basketball player. In our community, we do the same thing. Yeah. Right. We'll say the same thing because that's what we know to be true. So it's kind of unfortunate that we've allowed ourselves to be boxed in and have blinders on our capabilities of what we're really dope people, but unfortunately we have allowed everything around us to tell us we're not, and we subscribe to that mentality.
Yeah, and we don't have this. So I understand systems, that people usually don't like the word system because there's a negative connotation to it. But system is really just boundaries.
Yes.
So if we naturally kind of lean to an entrepreneurship type spirit, there's always been the hustle man. There's always been the person who was selling everything from lawnmowers to pit bulls. Somebody who there's no difference in that entrepreneurial spirit than starting your own small business. There's just not the structured boundaries and systems to support it, to tell you how to go about it in maybe a more efficient way. So I think that when we talk to young people about grooming them up with, you may not want a job. You may want to start your own business. So let's learn who you are. And I like the system will tell you if you're not good at A, B, and C, there's something wrong with you. And my thing is let's start with where you are. And I always like to say, double down on your strengths. If you get skilled at your strengths and you get it fine-tuned and right, ultimately you can pay somebody for your weaknesses. You're great at people, you're great with words, you deal with this, but you're not so strong in math, you can hire an accountant. You know what I mean?
Nikki says, we want to identify with high achievers, but again, it starts at home. I am a Latina woman who grew up poor. My passion was to be an artist. I never became one. I was told I could never be an artist. To learn to cook and clean and be a wife one day. I rebelled. I now chase self-development. And I show my children they can achieve greatness to put the time and efforts into yourself to do that. That's so good, Nikki. That's so good. And I feel like people that like her, that's in the artist world, there's no like direct path. that society says. So unfortunately, people end up being miserable because they're not living their truth.
Yeah, they're. I like the quote that you said in the beginning when you're talking about what Les said about the settlements. About making those concessions and really playing small. And the belief is that it's safe to play small, that it's safe to follow the system, to get in line and to just live it that way. Okay, then if your goal is to be a cog in the machine, your goal is just to keep it moving and just to lower your aspirations and get along to go along, whatever, fine, you can do that. Yeah. But you're really going to sacrifice a lot of that internal passion. And you can see it in people. You can see it in the ones who have been on the job that they have to do. And they've got one little piece of joy. That's that 45 minutes on a Saturday they get to spend in the garage washing the car.
Right.
That's that one, happy hour they go to once a month or twice a month with their girlfriends after work. That's that one little slice of peace. And the rest of their day is mundane, repetitive, have to, droll, just whatever, hoping that by the time you're a senior citizen, like I said, you can get a little time to yourself.
Right. And so people, now with the pandemic, a lot of that little piece that people have utilized to create joy is gone. How do we take control? Because your first thing about, the way that we can operate is self-awareness, but then taking control, like how can we start to take control of our situation, giving all of these, we talked about a lot of barriers. The barriers are very real, right? And so how do I move forward from those barriers?
Well, the first thing is in the premise of taking control is understanding that we're in the driver's seat or we're not. So you're this ride that you're on, you're deciding, am I in the driver's seat or not? Some people don't want to be. Some people do not want to be behind the wheel of their own lives.
Wait, when you say they don't want to be, they don't think they can, or they've settled with just living life that way?
Well, the reasons are there's a multitude of reasons how you get there, but the final decision is there's a lot of people that do not want control of their life because with control comes accountability. And another thing we do when we teach the youth program, we teach the difference between responsibility and accountability. And so there'll be people who will say, I'm responsible, which just means that you may share the lion's share of a situation, or that you say that I may be the focal point. But accountability means you don't use anybody else's name but yours.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything. I did. She didn't do this, so I did that.
Yep.
I did that.
Yes.
That's accountable.
Yep.
Responsible is we. You can be responsible with we. We were all in the car, but I was driving, but we was all accountable is I was driving.
And the beauty of being able to do it that way is that you start to feel the power that you have. If I'm consistently saying, well, Jermaine did this to me and Jermaine did that to me, then I'm waiting for Jermaine to change how he treats me before I can be okay. And this is something I'm consistently going over with people is that when Jermaine may have done or said something that may have hurt me, but I can choose how I'm going to respond. I can choose how I show up in his life. Yeah. So what role did I play in it? Because people will tell me the story and then I'm like, okay, what about you? Like I'm always bringing it back to you. And I think America, look at the president, right? Like America does not set up systems or there's not a culture of responsibility here. No. And so we unfortunately subscribe to that culture. This is even before our current president, right? In general, I think that we just don't take responsibility.
The system is set up that you're not supposed to be in control.
Yeah.
So you're accustomed to being, realistically, if you went to school and they said, look, by the time you finish this semester, you need to know how to do this, 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 and this. How you come to that conclusion is entirely up to you. That's free. You want to go to this class at this time, whatever, that's you got leeway and control to do it. But where people don't want to be in the driver's seat and don't want to take control is that, like I said, if this goes wrong, if I get lost, if the car breaks down, I have to fix it. If I crash, I got to be 100% responsible for the end results. There's a lot of people they don't want that. They'll say, look, as long as the ride is smooth enough and I got snacks, I'll sit shotgun. I'll let you drive. Some people are in the back seat. Hell, some people are in the trunk. This world is just running them where they have no idea where they are. They're trying to gauge speed bumps for what side of town they're in. They have no idea where they're going because they've given the keys to everybody else to dictate what happens to them in their life.
And that makes me so sad because I know that there's a better way, but I also recognize it takes a lot of work to get to that mindset of being able to think and start to take ownership. You start to feel the pain, and a lot of us don't want to feel it. We just want to keep going and not numbing our way through life. And I know now, even now more than ever, I think that there's a huge crisis happening in our country around mental health. And I think it's, due to the things that have already been there now being exposed because the distractions are no longer there. So, what you're feeling now for people that are listening, it may not be something new. It's just that you no longer have all of those distractions. And so I tell people, you can be a part of the process of what's happening internally, or you can choose not to, but the process is still going to happen. And so the more we run away from the process, the more we suffer. And so if we want to work on our suffering, we got to be a part of the process.
Yeah, our level of intimacy has exponentially gone up without the distractions. So if your marriage was having some suspect portions going on, but you got to leave the house for 9.5, 10 hours a day while she was gone for X amount of hours out the day, y'all only spending, the time that you sleep and maybe a strong 90 minutes of real interaction pre-COVID. So there's a lot of things that may not have been going on with the relationship you could put off on the job. You could put off, or you're just out of each other's sightline.
Right.
So then COVID hits and everybody's home.
Right.
So all those problems that you had, that you've been having for the last 18 months, 2 years, now you're in each other's face all day. And the levels of domestic violence are through the roof this year.
Yeah.
Child abuse, drug addiction, alcoholism, all this stuff has been going up because a lot of this unprocessed, unresolved stuff that we used to be able to go somewhere for half the day or get away from each other, now we're in each other's space.
Yeah.
And folks don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in some emotional spaces to where I'm forced to deal with this. I didn't want the keys, but somebody keeps throwing them to me.
Life.
Yeah, like I don't want to. Like no, you drive, and someone just keeps throwing them right back to you. So now you have to deal with your husband. Now you have to deal with your wife. Now you have to deal with all those things about your children that you could put off on. It must be their friends, or it must be the school that they're at, or it must be something else. No, these are your children that are in front of you right now, and you're starting to see some stuff that maybe you didn't see in them before. You seeing some traits about your wife you didn't see before, some things about your husband that you've been trying to ignore, but you can't ignore anymore. Some things about ourselves. Like a lot of us would talk, if we had a job for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, 15 years, we have a certain attachment to that job where we feel a certain way. Now that job is gone and your ability to provide may not be there.
Right.
Your feeling of it, so more so for men sometimes, is your job, you're told to be a protector and a provider, and you can't. In a particular moment. So instead of that being an indictment on, the system or the economy, whatever, that's a direct slap in your face. You got kids that need food. You got a wife looking at you kind of sideways, like unemployment running out in 3 weeks. What you gonna do? And so there's a lot of stuff that you can either deal with it while it's manageable or when it's not. But in any event, you're gonna be on the clock. You're going to have to do something with this. And there are some people who are trying to opt out of control, i.e. certain addictions, certain isolation, they're just like, someone keeps throwing the keys at them and they just drop the keys on the floor and walk away.
Yeah. And the reality is we can survive that way. We can keep going and just survive life, and surviving and living is two different things. So if it's huge. And, I think if we really want to start living, we really have to start taking accountability and facing our reality. I think facing your reality is something that can be hard. And some people are like, well, I don't like my reality. But you know what? It is your reality. And if we want to move forward, that has to be a big thing.
I'm always weird about that word.
Which one? Reality?
Reality.
Okay, tell me what you mean.
And so I'll use it in reference to when I say something is real, like it's tangible in the world. Like I'll say there's things that's in our head, and then there's something that's in reality. Like my thoughts about dogs is in my head, but my coffee table's in reality. Like I'll use it that way. But when I start words like for an individual, like your reality, that really is interpretational.
Correct.
And so however you want that to look, it's going to require effort and energy and passion. Like if you're like, some people are like, I want to live in a world, my reality is I just get to be creative and feel free and do what I want when I want. Okay. Now, one of two ways this works. You take control of your life and you put yourself in a position that you can come and go as you please and live how you want to please. Yeah. Or you don't take control, and we call those people homeless. You can truly come and go where you please if you're homeless. You gotta know where you got to be. Right. So your level of what reality really looks like. Some people say something was realistic. Like I always reference the youth program. We have them set goals, and somebody was trying to tell me, like, make sure they set realistic goals. And I said, I kind of stopped them, so respectfully. I said, I don't do that. Like, because when we talk about what's realistic, there was a time period where everything we do now on a day-to-day basis was not realistic. Yeah. The fact that I'm having this conversation with you right now, 25 years ago, was not realistic.
Right.
We could hold a piece of plastic up to our ear and talk to somebody 3,000 miles away, crystal clear, or hold it in front of us and speak face to face. 15 years ago wasn't realistic.
Right.
So if we're trying to tell somebody to set goals or to set dreams or to set a path for what they want to accomplish, the word realistic or reality are not ones that I like to impose, because those are more system-based. There's a degree of what's realistic within the confines of the system. This is attainable within the system, or it's not. If you can't get there through the system, then it's not realistic.
So what about, I hear you. What about if I'm in a process of losing my job,
okay,
but I don't face that I'm losing my job? Is that an example on where I would have to face the reality that I'm losing my job? Would you say that?
I mean, if you're like, you're for sure gonna lose your job.
I know my last warning, but I'm pretending like everything's fine. I'm going home like everything's fine.
Okay, so if you're pressed with, hey, we're letting you go on Friday, Friday you don't have a job anymore, and you acting like you're gonna go home and not tell that to anybody, and you're just saying that in my reality I have a job. That to me is why I wouldn't use the word. I would say that if you don't have a job next week and you're gonna act like it's not, well, next week is gonna hit you and something's gonna happen. And so this is where it goes into control, because control is gonna be, are you in control of what happens or are you not? So if you're saying, okay, well, I know I still want to feed my kids. I know I still want to be able to pay rent. I need to be in control of that. So even though I'm going to be gone with this job, did I put something else in place? Do I have other avenues or opportunities? If not, I'm giving the keys to fate. I'm giving the keys to my spouse. I'm giving them chance, like whatever, and if you're just going to see what happens, that's when you're not in control.
That's good.
That's when you're we think of out of control as erratic or irrational or all over the place. Out of control is just simply, I'm not in control.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm simply, my kid needs to see a specific doctor, but I can't afford to send them there. I'm not in control of my child's healthcare. That's it. Like my wife needs to see this specialist. I can't afford to send her there. I'm not in control of taking care of her the way she needs to be taken care of.
This is why I have Jermaine on every month. He's super dope, and he's really good at helping us get our mind right.
I'm just over here talking. That's all I do is talk. That's what I say all the time.
I want you to, give, we talked about we talked about a lot of different things today, but really, I think getting back in the driver's seat. I love the way that you present things. It feels very specific. It feels tangible, concrete. So if you can give my audience some tangible, attainable goals. That one of the things about Jermaine is about what can we do right now, right?
Yeah.
What can we do right now
Yeah.
to work on getting back into the drum seat?
So if you're not right now, if you're somebody who looks at your life and even you'll find it in your language that they did this to me, they laid me off, she said that, like, you find yourself usually referencing somebody else for your current situation. So the first part is identifying, this is me. Like, start where you are with what you've got. Self-awareness is key. Like, what am I working with? Good, bad, right, wrong, and different. Like, let's remove the judgment and just identify. Like, we're looking at the ingredients on the side of the box. Like, what am I really working with? I'm not really good with people. I don't follow instructions that well. I have issues dealing with authority. I'm not very consistent. I procrastinate. I get anxiety in social situations, but I'm a hard worker. I'm my brain to comprehend things is great. I'm amazing with my hands. Like let's just take stock of, like, what are we working with? Mm-hmm. And then start saying, where can I start applying the things that are working for me? And what can I do about the things that aren't? So I'm good with communicating with people. People genuinely like me. Okay, well, using my relationships, that may help me get a job. What's one of the reasons why I can't keep one? Well, I'm inconsistent and I'm late all the time. Okay, well, I'm going to use my relationships, my ability to relate to people to get an opportunity. Now I'm going to address that being late and address that inconsistency side that keeps holding me back. I'm not going to start with that boss had an attitude with me, or these people didn't like me for this reason, or this. Control what you can control. You can control your behaviors. Like I said, the first thing is taking stock. What's the ingredients on the side of the box? The ability to properly self-assess without judgment. Not just what is it? And that's the biggest thing I learned when I deal with people or do coaching stuff with people. They've been told through a system what's right and wrong. The system has a checklist of quote unquote behaviors that will make you successful or make you unsuccessful. Mm-hmm. And if they have too many things that don't, well, I'm not like that. And I don't dress that way. And I didn't go to that school. And I don't do those things. So I must be destined to be mediocre or a failure. No, let's remove all that. Just tell me what you're working with. Right. Like I said, I'm good with people. Okay, cool. I tell people all the time, all I do is talk. I was in high school. They said, figure out something you're good at. You'll figure out a way to get paid for it. For over 20 years, I've been running my mouth in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm not great in science. I don't know how to split an atom. I don't know how to take a carburetor apart. Like, there's people who are way more skilled in many things on this planet. I know how to take information and relay information. I know how to talk. I know how to speak. That's all I do.
Do it so well.
But that's my skill. Like I said, I got a brother who's a sound engineer, phenomenal sound engineer working out of LA. I got another brother who's a phenomenal businessman. I've got sister's an author. Like, I've got some people who got really, really great skill sets that I don't possess. And I don't judge what I can do based upon what they can do. They don't speak the way I speak. I can stand in front of a room of thousands of people and I can give a 60, 90 minute, 120 minute presentation, Q&A, all that. They don't speak like I speak. I figure out what you're working with, control what you can control, and go from there.
That's good. I really love that a lot, especially in the age of social media and everything being in front of you. I think so much comparisons. And so I'm so focused on what Jermaine's doing that I'm not even looking at what I'm good at, Yeah,
run your race.
Yes, that's good. Can you tell people, so you guys know you'll find him here every month. I think we have maybe about 3 episodes already that we've done in the past.
Yeah, it's the 4th one here. Yeah.
Getting your mind right. That's what we're calling these segments, because I feel like when we are able to kind of hear something differently, it can really help us shift our mindset. But tell people how they can reach you.
The easiest way, I tell people all the time. So every social media platform, whether it be from YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, all that is all at J Morris CEO. DM me, leave me a message, whatever. People always ask me, what do you do for a living? I got so many things that I'm involved with that it sounds like I'm crazy or I'm 15 people.
Oh, that's because they're in the blinders. You're different. You're out of the blinders.
Yeah, I found my skill set in a bunch of different lanes. Yes. So I created a youth development program, which is called the Ascension program. And so that's all. Like right now, the series we're doing is based around goal setting. It's like a 3-part series with kids. I do coaching with the DISC assessment. So using the DISC assessment, which is just basically short, just for it's a test that's given that shows our natural tendencies and behaviors to how we deal with problems, people, pace, and procedure. It shows our natural, which is who we are left to our own devices. And it shows our adaptive, which is who we become under pressure, under stressors, or when we're aware of other people. It's great to show our communication styles, our potential blind spots in behavior. If we're having issues with anxiety or all kinds of stuff, we can look at triggers within the test and then put together some strategies to change the behavior to get us in a better situation. So that's another program I do, as well as, like I said, A Cold Cup of Coffee, which is the show, which is based around personal development. The Say Something podcast is a little more around social events. You can find that, I'm everywhere.
But I do want to tell people, because he would come on the podcast and talk about it. And one day I was like, I want to do the DISC assessment. Let me hear what you're talking about. And me and my husband did the DISC assessment. And my husband, we are completely opposites. And I took this DISC assessment. It takes like 15 minutes. And then he sat with us and went over it. And I was blown away. I'm like, how do you know? And the great thing about this assessment, because it kind of goes into hand what we were talking about around our capabilities and stuff. And I think a lot of people are in jobs that don't really serve them or don't understand how to navigate some things because, we're all different. And I don't know how this test does it. I guess, 15 questions. I don't know how. What the test told me? I'm a people person. I like to solve problems. I can't, it's all this stuff from 15 questions. It's amazing. So if that's something that you want to do, especially I sent all my clients to him, and everybody's just like, oh my gosh, you said the same thing you said. Like, I was like, how you get there that quick? And I've been working with people.
I got the cheat sheet with the test.
And it's nice because it comes out on paper, and it spits out the results right away. And it's nice because I speak a lot. I'm very cognitive. Jermaine's very tangible. He's very concrete and concise. And I think that it's a tool that we all should utilize. But it's really good. But I want to talk about it and break it down for people so that they know that there's an option. I'm always trying to talk and give different tools, so people can help themselves and not. I think a lot of times we feel really stuck and we don't know how to get out of it. And if we wait for society, they say find a therapist. People can't find a therapist, right? There's coaches. There's so many different tools, and so I just want people to always do your research and look for those tools. And so for people that may want to find out more about the assessment, you can email him.
So either find me social media wise at J Morris CEO, or you can email me at T.E.A.M effort EFFORT program, team effort program @gmail.com.
I'm a therapist. I've been telling my husband you need these systems because you don't operate this way. And here comes Jermaine with the DISC assessment. All of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, yo, I've been telling you this already.
Yeah, I love it because the 22-page printout it comes with, but then it takes stuff that we think in our head and it shows on paper.
Yes.
And then we can go through I think part of it is I talk how I talk. So how I am right now is how I do the assessment. Mm-hmm. So we go through it and I try to make things where it's not so clinical. We'll take the clinical data, but I like to make it relatable with this is what's happening right now. And then we put together strategies for right now. I don't want not all that in 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever. Here's what you can do with this literally once we finish talking.
Yeah.
If you choose to or not. Here's some stuff you can take with you right this second.
I haven't had one, not even one bad report. And I've sent so many people to you, and it's always been, oh my gosh, that's so good. And I'm like, we don't even talk about it. I just say, here's this information. And I feel like you're going to take my job away from me. All people need now is to do the DISC assessment.
I tell everybody I'm not a therapist. I said, I don't diagnose and I don't prescribe. I'm just your behavioral tour guide.
Yeah, that's good. The behavioral stuff is good.
Yeah, that map that says you are here. My job is just to show you where here is on the map.
Yes.
You decide if you like where here is or not.
Yeah.
If you do, fine. If you don't, I'll show you how to get to somewhere where you do want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't diagnose, I don't prescribe. I'm just your behavioral tour guide.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next month. Jermaine, thank you so much for making space to come on here and sharing your knowledge with the people. I always enjoy talking to you.
My favorite person in mental health. Yeah.
That says a lot coming from you, because you seem like you know nonsense, straight to the point. You don't sugarcoat. And so that means a lot coming from you. Thank you, Jermaine. We'll talk to you next month.
Talk to you next month. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you want to follow Jermaine, make sure you follow him. Let him know what you think about the episode. If you want to follow me, go to celestetherapist.com. You can find the links to all of my social media platforms. I am on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitter. If you want to learn more about my Shifting the Way You Think community, which starts again in January, go to shiftingthewayouthink.com. That's shiftingthewayouthink.com. You can find the links to everything we discussed in the show notes. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.